you're getting ready to come out on stage to kind of like prep yourself. You're supposed to take like a Superman pose. Like you're supposed to like, and then you step out and you go. And yeah, we're live. I know we're live. Thank you. So Caroline's saying it's called a power pose, but yeah, you put yourself in like a power position that makes you just kind of feel like you're ready to go and bring energy. And then you go out and you bring it.
Yeah. See, I've got a 18-pound medicine ball sitting right below me so that I can lift weights right before this.
Right. Exactly. Get the
yeah.
Hey everybody. What's going on? Good Friday to you. Thanks for joining us. And I'm kind of excited for today. I love when I get to bring Bret Darby back on and steal more of his time. And for those that don't know Bret, Bret, why don't you just introduce yourself, say hi, and tell people what you do at Seller Labs.
Hey, I am Bret Darby. I am an account director and managing director of our managed services department. So I oversee the execution of all the campaign strategies that we implement for PPC clients, as well as oversee some of our ancillary services, such as listing and messaging optimization.
So here's what's cool. I call Bret one of my greatest sales closes of all time. I don't think I've ever told this story.
Yeah.
But literally when I was back selling our software to larger companies, Bret was running e-commerce for a multi-million-dollar catalog provider. And he was looking to leave to go move and take a new job. And I was like, well, what are you going to do? He goes, I don't know, but like, I need to find a new job when I get to my new city. And I was like, cool. Well, why don't you come work for us? So in the long run, we sold the client who's now on our managed services. We got Bret to come work for us. I considered it a major win. And you know, what I love about what Bret does, because Bret, I think, kind of handles Bret works in like the super data oriented side of Amazon. And so like the first time, Bret, you and I talked, like you showed me all these spreadsheets and macros and all these things that you do to like manipulate Amazon data to get a really good understanding of kind of what's happening in your business. And that's a lot of what you've brought into our managed services group, really giving them the ability to, you know, help analyze advertising as well as your overall account performance. And, you know, it's a gift that I don't have. I'm not data driven in that way like you are.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Jeff. And, you know, it's something that I hear so many sellers say how they don't have enough insight. You know, there's just not enough information to make a decision. You've got to be good at making a decision with less than accurate information and with only a piece of the puzzle. And so I love to go out and find those proxy points and say, okay, this is a good correlation with sales for this category. Let's use that as a proxy for now to figure out how to drive these initiatives forward and grow businesses.
Yeah. And we talk about analysis paralysis, the ability to be just paralyzed by multiple data points. And I actually just recorded a presentation for Prosper. I think it's at the end of October, all on data and this. And one of the quotes that I had in that presentation was, and it's a philosophy of Seller Labs, which is to use the data you have to make the best decision possible. And as data changes, don't be afraid to change your decision, to pivot from what you were doing. And I think that's how you look at things and how you kind of instruct the team to look at things. And I guess I'll say, like, I'll just kind of bring it as a question, like, how do customers react to that, right? Like when you tell them something today, but then the data is showing them something new, do they kind of feel like, well, wait, does that mean you were wrong? Or do they kind of understand that the data has shifted? Like how do customers react, you know, when data changes and they have to pivot and change their philosophy?
Yeah. And, you know, I'll start by saying our team is extremely fortunate and lucky to be able to interface directly with our clients to explain those things, because so many clients are out there in the weeds doing it themselves, trying to figure out what's next and maybe why they made a bad decision. at least we have a team behind it who can focus on delivering the right things, figure out when we're wrong, course correct, and get us back on the right track. I mean, I commiserate with so many sellers out there who are guessing, and maybe they read one blog article that tells them something and they read another that tells them something else. There's no absolutes in this. It's about making the most informed decision for your business you can, and using any data points you can get that are going to inform you well and correlate nicely with everything that you're doing for your account.
And I think that's a really great point that you just brought up, which is that we as sellers on the marketplace, as brand owners, are constantly bombarded with, this is the right way to do it. This is the right way to do it. This is the data point that's important. This is the data point that's important. When you guys are kind of, when you're talking to a client, are you helping to tell the client what data points are important, or is the client telling you what data points are important, or how do you and the client work together to figure out what data points are important?
Yeah, and it's really both. We have to ask those questions to understand what lenses a business owner or a decision maker will use to determine what happens next. You know, certain marketers are more savvy than others, and some understand that they're not going to have all that information and can make an adequate decision with, half of the puzzle there. Others require more information. And like you said, with analysis paralysis, some get stuck in that and they can't quite figure out how to make that next informed decision. I really recommend anyone in that position reevaluate what are the KPIs you're using and see if maybe there's something you're missing that could be a better proxy for success.
If you're not familiar with the term, KPI is your key performance indicator. I know on the last live that we did, people were getting lost by all the acronyms we were throwing out. So I'll try to remind you guys of those as we dig into these. So remind you today that there's a couple ways to interact with us. We have the Q&A on the bottom, or your comments if you're joining us via any of the social channels. We are monitoring all of the social channels and we'll answer as many questions as we can. So if you're joining us on a social channel and you're not joining us on the Zoom, then please like, comment, and share. We like the triple threat. If you do all three, you get extra love from me and Bret. And we really appreciate it. We appreciate you guys giving us some of your time on a Friday. Here we are. It's October 2nd. Prime Day has been officially announced by Amazon, and they haven't given us a lot of time to prepare. There were rumors of Prime Day coming and things like that, but in all reality, we have, as sellers, 2 to 3 weeks to prepare for Prime Day. So it's different than Prime Day's been in the past. I'm not going to say impossible, but I'm going to say it's very difficult for a seller to get their inventory into Amazon today, because Amazon is taking longer than 2 weeks to receive inventory into their warehouse. So what we want to do in today's hour is answer your questions specific to Prime Day, talk a little bit about some philosophies, strategies, ideas that you can potentially put into your mix, and help you we're calling it declassify, right? So pull the curtains away on all the things that confuse us and really get to the heart of the matter of what you can do to drive your business and set proper KPIs or proper metrics or proper goals and have a very successful Prime Day. Because Prime Day is interesting in that Prime Day is now this like pre-kickoff to a holiday time period, right? And so we're going now from Prime Day, which is going to roll into Halloween, even though it's technically Halloween right now, which is going to roll into early Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals. Remember last year, they started rolling out the first, second week of November, right? So if you think about this, this is constantly going. And if you listened to us 2 weeks ago, we got into the idea that shipping and logistics and restocking your inventory and getting products from the Amazon warehouse to a customer are all going to be delayed. So how are customers going to act and interact differently than they have in the past. A lot to unbox here, and we'll get into some of this now, but I'd love to know what questions, comments, concerns, challenges you guys are facing so we can address those as well. Simple question to start off with. What are your general thoughts about Prime Day?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very glad that Amazon was still able to roll out Prime Day and include it this year. I think for a number of reasons, really. Number one, it gives sellers a great opportunity to see that surge and really put themselves positive this year. Beyond that, I think it's a great opportunity to kind of spread out some of the constraints that everyone's feeling. I mean, USPS, UPS, all of these shipping carriers are figuring out how to get it done in the age of COVID. And by spreading out some of those sales across October, November, and December, it should help kind of disperse that and put less strain on those networks, because nobody wants to order something on December 12th and not get it until the 28th. And if they didn't do this, I could see that starting to happen, because there's going to be a lot of congestion with it being an election year, with it being COVID, and with Amazon themselves trying to figure out how to facilitate this late in the year.
Yeah. And I think as sellers, we need to, I mean, this is why Amazon changed the return period, right? Like now it's almost like Amazon takes actions and then you're like, okay, now it makes more sense. Everyone's like October 1st. Well, yeah, October 1st, because they want people to buy for Prime Day as Christmas gifts. And now you can do that. You have that peace of mind. And, I think that when it comes down to it, you hit the nail on the head. And consumers are starting to wrap their head around disruption as a norm and what they need to be doing to get their kids or their family members the things that they need to get them for the holidays and shopping early. And I think that mindset is just overall changed because of what we've already seen this year and what people are kind of anticipating with the start of the flu season and winter in general.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a question that is asked often, it's already been asked, and I know it'll be asked numerous more times. What do I do if I don't have a Prime Day deal? What type of suggestions are you making to your clients?
Yeah, especially in this year with it being so unprecedented and a lot of sellers facing inventory concerns, you have to take a deep look at each of those components. Do I have the product ready to fulfill? Is there enough for me to really ramp up sales and then be okay going into November? Or am I in a place where it's risky if I see a sizable lift in sales? In that latter case, you're going to want to be a little bit more conservative and not focus on really boosting and driving additional growth. You're going to want to maybe slow down, be a little more conservative, and focus on your margins. Make sure that you're controlling costs and not having too much outbound expenditure with advertising dollars. If it's the opposite and you actually have a surplus, maybe you're overstocked or you're stocked sufficiently, you can use each of these levers within the advertising tools to make sure that you're driving growth for your products properly. If you've been focused on sponsored products only, it's a great time to maybe roll in some sponsored brand campaigns selectively. But be careful with the keywords you target, because costs do increase, CPCs can rise, and so you need to make sure that you have a full grasp on everything you're rolling into the mix.
So when it comes to preparing ads for Prime Day, you need time, right? You can't just turn them on that Sunday and expect them to work on Monday or Tuesday. So when will you start kind of prepping, and what will you do to prep your ads for Prime Day?
Yeah, we've already started. Within managed services, the process has begun already. And we're really in the beginning phases of this. It's essentially the ramp up to Prime Day. So that's using different tools to get some awareness out there. So if we're running sponsored display, it's perhaps going after some audience or view targeting to make sure that we're getting some extra eyes on page and kind of letting people know that this product is there in case they're in market for it. We're also being selective with the way we use the different automatic match types. So making sure that we're not just throwing everything out there, we're focused on the types that are going to get that awareness out there. Substitute targeting is a great opportunity. Loose match and close match are also great opportunities. For anyone who's either in market or about to be in market, those are going to be some of your go-to bets to make sure that you're getting exposure for your products right now. There's also a number of tools you can use like dynamic bidding and the bidding controls to add some modifiers for top of search, since people aren't going to go down the rabbit hole to page 12 to find your product. You really do need to make sure that it's showing up prominently. And so if you can do that temporarily in the lead up to Prime Day, you can start to get more people aware of what you have to offer and potentially purchasing come Prime Day.
How much, like, what should if I'm normally, I know you're going to answer, it depends.
I won't.
How do I look at my budget today for advertising and plan for my budget? Should I plan to 2x it, 3x it? How do I look at my bids? What type of strategy do I want to wrap around that when looking at like what to do to ramp up over the next 2 weeks? And then do I ramp down afterwards?
Yeah. So if you're using those modifiers, you're going to want to take that into consideration. Let's just say you're adding 100% modifier. So you're 2xing your bid for top of search. That's going to spend more money very likely. And it's also going to maybe move you up in the ranking for the ad algorithm to say, hey, they're getting more placements. So you'll see impressions rise, you'll see clicks rise, and you'll see those costs rise. So you need to know what it is you're manipulating to determine that budget. For a lot of people, it might be 2x. For some people, it might be leaving budgets where they're at because they're already not utilizing it all. And for another group of people, it's that 3 to 5x, really being aggressive because you want to own a lot of placements.
So I think you brought up a really great point there. Let's dive into it a little bit deeper, but budget utilization, right? So I don't think that's something that's talked about a lot, but you brought up a really great point, which is if your budget is $50 and you're only spending $25 on average a day and you 2x your bids, you don't need to change your budget, right? I'm just trying to give some kind of examples for people. But if you're spending $50 a day and every day you're spending $45 and you 2x your bids, you kind of need to plan to double your budget to cover the 2x of the bids. Otherwise, you're going to pay more and get less traffic. And so I think that's they kind of play hand in hand with one another, and you can't change one without considering the other. You maybe don't need to change the other, but you need to at least consider the other.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you want to take this from 3D chess to 4D chess, you also need to consider the accuracy of your targeting. So what keywords, what products, what groups of individuals or demographics are you targeting? And how accurate is that for the people who are purchasing your type of product? If your accuracy is very high, you might not need to use that budget as a control mechanism to determine how much outbound expenditure you have. If the opposite is true, you might need to use that budget as a way to prohibit you from just spending all of your money on a single ad.
Yeah. So we're getting into some kind of deeper stuff here. And I know this, I want to try to keep things simplified for people, but understand these are also the complexities of like taking your business to the next level. And so Bret, keep going with this type of stuff. I want to go back to the question that was asked earlier, because I think we missed one critical point, which was, what do I do if I don't have a Prime Day deal? And I want to give a couple hard suggestions of what to do if you don't have a Prime Day deal. So the first is look at shopping behavior. And so what Bret just explained was that by running branded ads, by building an understanding of your product, building more awareness, people might put your product in their shopping cart. And one kind of statistic we don't have on Amazon is how many people have us in their shopping cart but haven't purchased. But we know that it happens, and we know that it happens around the holiday season. And so you might not have an official Prime Day deal, but you might want to consider running a coupon on Prime Day that runs 5, 10, 20% off of your product, because there are people who might be watching your product to see if you have a Prime Day deal. So that's kind of suggestion number one. Suggestion number two is don't be 100% dependent on Amazon for driving your Prime Day traffic. If you have any external list, consider running your own Prime Day deal off of Amazon and pushing those people onto Amazon. So if you have a Facebook group, an Instagram group, a TikToker thing, I don't even know what they're called.
Yeah.
I have a TikTok channel. We'll get into that later. TikTok or whatever it is that you have people following you and your brand, run a few little promos that are teasers telling people leading up to Prime Day that you're going to have a Prime Day deal, and then come into Prime Day and drop a deal so that you can drive more traffic and sales on that day to keep up with the velocity and sales of your competitor. Do you have anything else you would add to those two suggestions?
Yeah, I guess I would compliment the one that you said last is if you're going to drive traffic externally from Facebook, Pinterest, anywhere to Amazon, use Amazon attribution, because it will give you detail page views and add to carts. So you can get a better proxy for how many conversions might I be looking at with everything I'm paying for right now. If you've got 100 add to carts, there's a good chance that a deal might be the mechanism that causes those people to convert.
Yeah, just remember, people are looking for deals on Prime Day. And so I don't think just going into Prime Day with your product at full price is a strategy that will generate you sales. At the end, you'll be like, but I didn't get any sales. There was more traffic. So Jerry just says he's never used Amazon attribution. Can you talk a little bit about Amazon attribution? I know it's still kind of, I think, technically in beta, so everybody might not have access to it, but I know you can go into your brand dashboard and that's where you would see if you have access to it.
Yeah, it's part of brand registry. It's under the brand registry umbrella. And it's a program that allows you to basically create a unique link that is trackable, and it shares the link with Amazon, and you tell them where you're going to be driving traffic from. And then they're able to correlate those two things and say, okay, advertiser ABC is sending traffic here, and when it gets here, they buy product XYZ. And they can correlate those two and then give you some additional information you won't get as just a 3P seller or vendor to tell you about add to carts and detail page views. It's a great way for you to really understand what's working and what's not with your external traffic.
Yeah, this is really Amazon's answer to large CPG companies that are like, hey, Amazon, you can't close the whole box and tell us nothing. We need a little bit of information if we're going to be sending traffic and ads and things to our listings. So check it out. If you attended either AdCon over the last couple of days, or you attended Accelerate at the beginning of September, there was also content on Amazon attribution. You can go back into those and see some of Amazon's information on that. So just some other ways to look at that and consider. Let's see. I had a question come in from Robert on LinkedIn. He asked a question specific to himself, and then I'm gonna answer that, and then we'll go to a more broad. So he said he's almost ready, but should he rush to get his products into Amazon in advance of Prime Day? If so, he lives near southern Wisconsin. Oh, you're like right between Bret and I.
Howdy.
So he wants to know if he can drive into Kenosha and drop off his inventory at the warehouse. So I'm going to answer your question specifically, Robert, and I'm going to say that you cannot drive into the warehouse and drop off your inventory. You have to schedule your inventory to get into the warehouse. Let's talk about from the more generic question, which is like, I have a new product. I'm trying to get it to market. What is or should I rush to get that to market in anticipation of Prime Day?
I would say no, personally. It's not a great day for brand new products to see a lift in exposure and awareness. It's too costly. You got to understand it's a market, and different people are competing for the same attention of customers. And with this holiday, everyone's competing on multiple fronts with both discounts to incentivize the purchase, and before that with advertising to draw eyes to their page. And for you to try to launch a product right now, it's going to be a very costly endeavor. Now, there's a couple caveats. If it's a very niche item, very specific, that's perhaps an exception. But I would say if you don't already have reviews and the social proof behind it, it's still probably not going to fare very well. I would wait and maybe even postpone that till post Prime Day.
Yeah, you really struggle to get a product momentum if you have external recognition. right? Like if the brand has brand value and you're trying to get it onto Amazon, you maybe want to try to rush and get it. If you already have a brand and you're bringing on a new product, you may want to bring it on, because Prime Day could be a way for people that are searching for your brand to be looking for something else that you do. But I do think I agree with you. It'd be really hard as a new seller to try to rush to get there for Prime Day and expect Prime Day to give you some type of bump, because you're just not going to have enough history in the system for your product to even show up anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to take a second. I usually do this at the bottom of the hour and do my little commercial break. We need somebody to pay for these events. Oh wait, I guess Seller Labs pays for them. What I'll pitch today to you guys is Bret. And so our managed services group manages hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in Amazon advertising. You probably know the number. I don't even know the number. I probably should off the top of my head.
2.5 on average
per month.
Yeah, 2.5 million.
And we work with clients that are doing 5,000 a month in advertising up to hundreds of thousands a month in advertising. So if you're interested in learning about our managed services group, or if you want our managed services group to take a look at your account and see what types of optimizations we could do if you were to work with us, go ahead and you can type in the word CAT into any of the chat boxes. CAT means campaign assessment tool, and we'll do a free campaign assessment. Now, I'm going to caveat and say that it's not possible for you to come to us today and say, and I want you to get me up and running and going by Prime Day. Yeah. So, well, maybe the salespeople want me to say that you can, but it's not going to happen.
I would say there's
but if you would like a larger, deeper expert analysis of your advertising campaigns and how you're doing right now with advertising, let us know in one way, shape, or form, and we would be happy to reach out to you. In addition to that, if you're newer to selling on Amazon, I just released a new piece called Amazon Declassified. It's a gigantic, like 8,000 or 10,000 word page that covers really in-depth strategies for being successful on Amazon selling. It includes videos from other experts in the space, and it's organized in a very nice way that will lead you to understanding more about the Amazon ecosystem and how these things can apply to you. And it's kind of a choose your own adventure. So like, if you want to learn about advertising, you jump into advertising. You want to learn about strategy and data, some of the things that we talked about, you can jump into that. And it's built in sections so you can see everything. And it's a really cool piece. I enjoyed making it, and I hope you enjoy digesting it. Got a couple questions that have come in. Let's see here. All right, here we go. Fern on Facebook wants to know, is there a value to starting a campaign before Prime Day to ramp it up, or is it just as effective to start a campaign that morning?
Yeah, I would start it in advance. Absolutely. Takes a little bit of time for these things to get going. And you can imagine that there's a lot of brands competing. And so you tossing it in last minute and hoping that it works on the day of Prime Day, you're not going to get any feedback whatsoever. You're not going to get anybody clicking. It's going to take a while for that metric to start, or for the metrics to start piping through and you start getting some reporting. So it's basically just a Hail Mary attempt. It's not thought out. I would say the only exception is if you have a refined keyword list that you know you do well against, you can build specific campaigns with specific budget set aside for that day. But even then, I would launch it the day before at least. Give it a little bit of time to start getting rolled into the algorithm and working. Yeah,
so let's kind of geek out a little bit and kind of declassify this for people to understand how Amazon works. That's kind of what we promised today. So we'll share a little, and we've shared this in the past. So Amazon works in a way where it's an AI machine learning based system, right? Very similar to if you use automation or ad strategies inside of Seller Labs Pro, right? We have a certain amount of data at the beginning, but we need data to be able to make decisions about how things are going to work. And so when you launch a campaign on Amazon, you get what's called the benefit of the doubt, which means we don't know how your campaign is going to work, but we think you're going to work at a certain level. And that's why you typically see a big spike in maybe impressions and things like that. But that spike doesn't come immediately. It takes a day or 2 days to kind of figure that out. And then things kind of tail off and then they kind of find their baseline. And so the typical best practice that we've always recommended is giving yourself about 2 weeks. 1 to 2 weeks is probably good enough to ramp up a new campaign. And so what Bret was talking about is what we term a keyword isolation campaign. And that's taking a specific keyword that you know performs really well. You've seen it perform well in some of your other campaigns. And by dedicating a budget and a new campaign to that keyword, you drive that keyword, which ends up having very high value because it's got a high click CTR, click ratio. It's got a high impression. It's got a high conversion rate. And Amazon says it's successful, and it can more accurately use that budget specifically for that keyword. And so it's a little bit more of an advanced technique in terms of keyword isolation, but it does work, and it works for days like Prime Day or even for just a holiday period. Typically, I don't know, Bret, what you recommend, but typically what I've recommended is you want to have kind of like your auto campaign and then your general manual campaigns. And then you want to have a specific campaign for those highly targeted keywords that are performing.
Yeah. And the same is true with ASIN targeting or category targeting. If you've got something that there's constantly trappings of success in, continue to invest in it. But you might need to create some extra campaigns to kind of sprinkle on that additional ad budget without manipulating what's already working well.
Question from Thomas. I love this question. I feel like some of these questions we get over and over again, and it's not a knock on any of you guys. It's just like, it's a reminder to us that things we think of as like standard are things that we need to keep reminding the audience about, because not everybody knows all the things that are standard, if you will. So Thomas said he has a product. It sells 20 to 30 units a day. Sales from his ads happen, but he doesn't see them as being profitable. Does spending on ads still help search results and other traffic? i.e., should I just stop advertising or keep it running? And so I'm going to rephrase this question. And I'm going to say that, and I'm going to ask you, Bret, to kind of explain, how does paid traffic impact organic traffic?
I'll give two answers. I'll give the very, very simple answer first, and I'll give a little bit more detailed one. The very simple answer is Amazon does not differentiate the two. They look at a correlation of inputs and then determine what is the output from that. So if you do well organically or you do well in paid, you're going to get sales from that. And Amazon's going to keep rewarding that product by showing it in search results. That's essentially the output from ranking. Now, the more advanced version of that is you're in a market where you're competing against a lot of other sellers for, again, that same attention, that same customer, or that same purchase. And so when you start to lose organic ranking, that can be because you're being suppressed by other people who are advertising and being a little bit more aggressive. They're willing to give up a little bit more margin to get that same sale. Or it could be because the corresponding inputs and outputs are not as favorable as with another brand. Like you mentioned with that benefit of the doubt, the technical term for the people who write these algorithms is a hunger score. It's how hungry is this product for a placement? And that's just a series of interactions with how people click on the page, how long they stay on the page, what they do they buy, do they add to cart? They're taking all of these myriad of inputs, putting it through that machine learning algorithm and saying, figure out a way to make sure that we're showing the products that do best. Make sure that those show up prominently and regularly.
Okay, let's take this to one step further and help Kenny answer this question, which is, talk a little bit about how organic sales and paid sales balance each other to, because to me, he's looking at a cost. He's not looking at tacos, right? So let's kind of let's kind of and I think this is a mistake a lot of sellers make, which is my ad sales aren't working, so I'm going to turn them off. But you have to look at other data points before you make that decision. So can you kind of talk to like what other data points should I look at, and how can turning off those sales, or how can turning off those, I think you kind of covered if I turn off my ads, I might hurt my overall organic sales, but talk about how you need to look at advertising a little bit in general and specific to not just a cost, but into its overall expense.
Yeah, we like to take a step back at managed services and look at the big picture as well. The advertising is obviously what we focus on primarily, but we need to understand that interplay between organic and paid sales. So we know if we're maybe being too aggressive or not being aggressive enough. And so different categories have different ratios of that. Maybe it's 60-40 or 80-20, but you're going to have some relation between the amount of ad sales you typically get and the organic sales that you're getting as well. And so you'll have to measure it at your own business to determine what that is and whether it's healthy or not. And then experiment with it and determine if we're a little bit more aggressive with our ads, or even very aggressive with our ads, does that actual top line revenue increase? And are we getting the things that we want to see? Or are we simply shifting organic sales to the paid column and paying for sales we would have gotten organically?
Yeah. And that's a very delicate balance, right? We keep talking about these things that are about balance, and that's a very delicate balance in terms of, if I'm increasing my ad spend, you're going to change your ratio between organic and paid. So you want to start watching your tacos, which is your total advertising cost of sale. And you want to look at kind of some other numbers along the way to see how that's impacted. Now, this also depends on how new is your business, how new is your product, how well known is your brand, that are all going to impact that. I mean, I've seen sellers who are doing multiple millions and they're at a 70-30, 70% organic, 30% sales. I've seen sellers doing multiple millions who are at a 50-50, but they still are able to run their tacos, their total advertising cost of sale, at a rate that's profitable for them, even if the A cost isn't at a rate that's profitable for them. And we went into this in pretty great detail into a webinar where we actually showed that, the taco of a client was like 2% or less than 2%, but the A cost was like 75%. So depending on what that balance is between advertising and paid, you might need a few more sales paid to help with your organic ranking. And so it's not just as easy as saying it's profitable, not profitable, turn it on, turn it off. You actually are driving other levers along the way that when you take those extra sales away, you might be hurting yourself more than you think. I actually remember working with a client who's a managed service client, and he had the exact same thing. He's like, oh, my advertising's all, I've gotten up to my rank. I'm going to turn my ads off. And I'm like, no, like your ads got you to your rank. You can't turn your ads off. Like if you turn your ads off, you start dropping. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like Amazon's got you hooked. I don't know what to say. Like,
yeah, it's that ranking atrophy. It's like a muscle or anything else. It's going to start to go away and other people will start to improve and you'll lose ranking.
Yeah. So here's a question about Amazon Live. I know you and I have both dug into Live a little bit. He has not started using his live show yet, but his company and brand are known for live TV and live Facebook. So they've done that before. How could he leverage Amazon Live for Prime Day?
Simply put, create one. Start running one. I mean, it's straightforward. I mean, it depends on what sort of resources you have to either write out a plan for what you're going to cover or just go live and start talking about your product.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a brand that is already known for going live, meaning that you can go live on Facebook and push people there from other channels, I would plan to go live on Prime Day and basically announce an Amazon Prime Day live special, so to speak. And I think that if you don't have that, if you've never gone live before, you can still go live on Prime Day. I just don't know that you'll get your bang for your buck from that, like you might from other things. Mm-hmm. But if you have a known audience and if you have an audience that is used to you engaging in that way, then I definitely think that you could use that mechanism as a way to drive some sales and opportunities.
Yeah. And if you haven't gone live, but you're really interested in doing it, Prime Day might be a good day. At least it would be a welcome distraction from worrying about sales. Go
Yeah,
live
I
for
mean,
20 minutes and try it.
but like we talked about this earlier, I'm just thinking about how I would approach it if I was Alex's company, right? So if I was Alex's company and I had an audience, I would probably tease my audience on Facebook or Instagram or wherever and say, Prime Day special, we'll be going live on Amazon. Now, there are streaming services. We use one that you can use that can send you in different places at the same time. I don't know if Amazon interacts with those or not. I'm just not familiar with Amazon's system yet, but I know Amazon's system works on a phone, and you can literally be live on your computer and then set your phone up right next to your computer so that you're streaming live on two things at one time. And you can be trying to drive your people from Instagram or Facebook or YouTube to your Amazon either page for your deals. Maybe you use Amazon stores, or driving them to your Amazon live for them to be following you live there. I guess they're following the same stream, so they don't really have to be there. But the cool thing about Amazon's live stream is that you can have product features on the bottom. And so you can set coupons that only are active while you're live on Amazon Live, so that people have to come during the Amazon Live, and you can be like, I'm going to be live for an hour. We're going to have special Prime Day offers during my live. Come check out my live special Prime Day. And you can drive people in. They can see that. And then once the replay occurs, the product is still promoted, but the special pricing is gone. So there's like an incentive for people to join you live. The key to all of this is you got to take some time today and plan, because you can't just wake up that morning and do it. You've got to plan, you got to prep, you got to drive your audience and tell them that it's coming.
Yeah. I think also, Jeff, to add on to that, it works tremendously well for anything that requires education-based selling. If you can't understand your product from just looking at a picture and reading the title, or there's hidden features that you might not discover without doing a lot of research, live is a great mechanism for that.
So I want to answer this one question from Kenny, and then I want to ask you more about video that we just talked about. So Kenny wants to know, is it normal to see a drop in sales prior to Prime Week?
Yes, very much so. That is people realizing there's going to be deals next week or the week after and saying, let me think a little bit more about my purchase decisions right now. Let me see what might be something I want to buy. And so you'll notice a decline in conversions or conversion rate. Sometimes traffic stays strong. Sometimes it dips. It depends upon what customers need to do to research something. Certain products are impulse purchases and they don't need to research it. They might just pop in there and check to see what's available, what colors are in stock. I actually know his brand, Jeff, so I work with Kenny. Yeah, Kenny, you're definitely going to see a decline there. I've seen it in a number of accounts. It's just the nature of, hey, maybe if I hold out a little bit, there'll be a good deal on this. And so they're kind of,
and again, they might be adding it to their cart waiting.
Yep.
So let me ask this question. When it comes to, let's talk about video, right? So we were talking about live, but video has become very prominent on Amazon. Sellers can now put video directly in their listing. Sellers can now add video onto their store pages. Video can be added into the video shorts, related videos in your account. You have video ad units that you can be running. How is your team kind of seeing all of this stuff with video? What type of investment are you suggesting clients make in video, and what are you finding to be worth your time, not worth your time?
Yeah, so far, pretty much anything we've done has been worth our time. I mean, competition is still low, and the barrier to entry is high enough that certain brands won't even consider it yet. If they don't already have video ready or they haven't considered making it, it's a bit of a challenge to overcome and say, okay, do I hire somebody You know, do I get Scorsese or do I just do it myself on an iPhone? And what we've been kind of recommending is three packages or three buckets that you can fall into: the very low budget, the mid budget, and the premium. And the low budget is just doing it yourself. If you have anyone on your team who's edited video in the past or dabbled in it, they can throw together a slideshow with some content and some text on screen that describes the product. You can get free to use music online that's Creative Commons license. You can put it all together and package it in a way where it takes an hour and you have video live. Now, the returns on that are obviously going to be lower because the production value is not there. The mid-range is finding somebody who already does it and creates these videos for a living and hiring them to do it. Now, you're going to be looking in maybe a $500 to $2,000 range for something like that. But it can be well worth it if you plan to continue to grow it and it's your intellectual property or your brand. The premium is obviously director, storyboarding. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. And we're currently working with a brand who's doing all of that to prep for a big push in 2021. Now, I say that to be very clear. They're not thinking about pushing this out for Prime Day. It's too late. They're preparing for next year and trying to find a way to leverage this throughout the next calendar year.
But you've also had clients that have been extremely successful in doing the first version of taking 4 still photos, adding some text between them, and running ads. And so some of this comes down to, what is your competition doing? Mm-hmm. Right? Can you basically steal the space for free because your competition isn't doing anything? And then how complex is your product to explain? And so for one client that you guys are working with, they're usually pretty good about us sharing it. They sell t-shirts. And I shared this before, like literally the video is like,
yep. But Jeff, that's way more interactive and visual and stimulating than
but that's the whole video. Like, so don't overcomplicate this if you don't need to overcomplicate it, right? You can take 4 still video. Like if you can't do that, take 4 still videos of you turned each direction and just put it in iMovie and add a slight little fade between each one, add common license music to it, make the thing 30 seconds long, and you're done.
Yep. I had a client do it same day turnaround. She got access to sponsor brand video. I said, here's some options for you. 30 minutes later, she sent me a video and said, can you launch it? She did it herself. She's not classically trained in this or anything. She just bootstrapped it and got it done.
And that's what you've got to do to be successful, because what happens is we talked at the beginning about analysis paralysis. And what happens is you go, but I really need this and I really need that. And I need a better camera and I need a better lighting. And then all of a sudden your video, you've spent months and you don't even know if the video is going to work for you. Now she knows the video works for her. So she's willing to go invest now in maybe a $500 or $2,000 video. Mm-hmm. And then if that works, she'll go invest in a $10,000. I will invest. If you prove to me that something works, I love ATM machines. Advertising is an ATM machine. Mm-hmm. You are sticking money into Amazon's ATM machine. And if your ad works, they're paying you back. It can't get more simple than that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you've got to figure out what's working and what's not. And if you try to spend $2,000 to make an ad work and then the ad doesn't work, man, that was a lot of loss, as opposed to spending 30 minutes of your time and saying, hey, we did that, it works, let's go invest more. Or, hey, we did that, it didn't work, let's move on. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, if you're questioning, like, should I do video? Let's just kind of break it down and make it really simple. If you don't have a video in your listing, you need a video in your listing. Even if the video in your listing is just a like presentation of like your products and the benefits to the consumers, you have to have that video up there first and foremost. I think the second easiest video to do are the related videos. Literally, you can take any customer video that you have and you can upload it. Just make sure you remove any links or social or hashtags or anything like that. Add those next, because those are easy and and you fill up all that space with your stuff versus your competitors. And if you really want to have fun, you can get your stuff to show up on your competitors' related videos. then I don't know that I would say video ads are the next place that I would go, because you have to have a foundation of the rest of your advertising before you jump into video ads. But video ads would be next in the video, I guess, contingency or continuum, if you will. So I want to wrap up here. I know you've got another presentation you have to give at the top of the hour. So I want to end a few minutes early than we normally do. Thank everybody for coming and ask this question. Bret, what are your final thoughts on Prime Day? Like what do I need to be focused on? What do I need to be spending my time on? What do I need to be worried about with Prime Day being, we'll call it less than 2 weeks away?
Yeah, I'm going to take the carpentry philosophy, measure twice, cut once. I mean, really get everything prepared before, the end of this week or next week. Get it all ready. Don't be trying to get it together the weekend right before Prime Day, trying to make last minute decisions. You kind of have to have an idea of what you're going after, what products are going to be a good fit for it, and start planning today. Get it all built out, get ads scheduled, have everything kind of ready to go. Unless you have a service like our team who can do some of those last minute changes for you, and we're watching it constantly, you're going to want to be able to free yourself up so you can go focus on some other things and make sure operations are still moving forward smoothly.
Yeah. So basically you want to be spending next week or this week, depending on when you're watching it, you want to be spending this week in the strategy piece of this and writing this out and understanding what your social posts are going to look like, what your live schedule is going to be, what your coupon schedule is going to be. And, like Bret said, you can do all of that. You can pre-launch, store pages that go up now based off of time. You can pre-launch coupons that have start and end dates. So all of these things are things you can do ahead of time. You don't have to be scrambling at the last moment. Again, I will say that if anybody is looking for somebody to help them evaluate their advertising, that's what Bret's team does all day long. Free analysis for us to come in and look at your ads and help you evaluate that. I also want to remind you that we are about a month away from Amazon implementing the changes to buyer-seller messaging. So if you're not aware of the changes to buyer-seller messaging, you want to take a few minutes and read the articles on our blog related to buyer-seller messaging. We will be making a couple of updates over the next few weeks around the changes we'll be making at Seller Labs to ensure that you're compliant, and some of the messaging we'll be doing with you as clients to ensure that you're compliant. But don't sleep on that because that date is coming. It's a hard date, the first week of November. I think November 3rd is the date. And if you haven't checked out our declassified content, make sure you take a second, go in and look at our content on Amazon Declassified. There's a ton of knowledge in there. It's a lot to digest. I'm not going to lie. So digest it in parts. Use the parts that are most, applicable to your business today. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. Reach out to our customer success team. Reach out to us on social. Bret and I are both active on many different social channels, and you can find us. And we'd love to answer your questions. And we'll be back, I think, in 2 weeks. I think we're going to be back the Friday after Prime Day, and we'll be doing kind of a Prime Day wrap up on October 16th. And then we have a couple of webinars that we'll be wrapping up at the end of the month. So thank you all. Everybody have a great Friday. If you're struggling with Prime Day, go ahead and post it in our Facebook group, and we can all help each other out. So everybody, have a great day.
Thanks.